Jake had always been the quiet type. At 34, he worked as an architect in downtown Chicago, spending his days designing buildings and his evenings sketching ideas in his personal notebook. His wife, Lisa, a psychology teacher at the local college, often found him hunched over his desk, writing something with intense focus. They had been married for 6 years, and Lisa thought she knew everything about her husband. Jake was predictable in many ways. He liked his coffee black, preferred mystery novels over romance, and always folded his clothes the same way. But lately, something was different. It started with small things. Lisa noticed Jake watching her more carefully when she got dressed in the morning. Not in an obvious way, but she could feel his eyes following her movements. Sometimes she would catch him staring at her hands while she stirred her tea, as if he was thinking about something specific. One evening, while they were sitting on the couch watching television, Jake shifted closer to her. Nothing unusual about that, except Lisa had this strange feeling that he wanted her to lean against his shoulder. In a particular way, she couldn't explain why she thought this, but she adjusted her position anyway. When she did, Jake relaxed completely, and she felt this wave of contentment from him. The next morning, Lisa found herself choosing a blue dress instead of her usual black outfit. She had no real reason for the choice, just a feeling that Jake might like it. When he saw her at breakfast, his face lit up in a way she hadn't seen in months. He didn't say anything, but his smile told her everything. These moments kept happening. Lisa would get sudden urges to cook Jake's favorite meal, or to suggest they take a walk in the park instead of staying home. Each time, Jake's reaction was so positive and surprised that Lisa began to wonder what was going on. The breakthrough came on a rainy Thursday evening. Jake was writing in his notebook again, completely absorbed in whatever he was putting down. On paper, Lisa was reading nearby when she suddenly had the strangest thought. She imagined Jake wanting her to come sit next to him, not to read his writing, but just to be close while he worked. Without really thinking about it, she got up and sat on the arm of his chair. Jake looked up, startled, then smiled that same mysterious smile. He closed his notebook gently and pulled her down to sit properly in the chair with him. "How did you know?" he asked softly. "Know what?" Lisa replied, though her heart was beating faster because she somehow did know, even if she couldn't explain it. Jake just shook his head and held her closer. That night, they sat together in comfortable silence, and Lisa felt like they were communicating without words for the first time in their marriage. Over the next few weeks, Lisa became more aware of these moments. She started paying attention to Jake's body language, the way his breathing changed when he was thinking deeply, how his shoulders tensed when he wanted something but wouldn't ask for it. It was like learning a new language, except this language was made up of glances, pauses, and the energy Jake gave off when he was lost in thought. Lisa found herself responding to signals she didn't even realize she was picking up. One Saturday morning, Jake was making breakfast when Lisa walked into the kitchen. She could sense that he wanted her to come up behind him and put her arms around his waist while he cooked. The feeling was so strong that she acted on it without hesitation. Jake melted into her embrace, and she knew she had guessed right again. This is getting weird, Lisa thought to herself, but not in a bad way. It was like discovering a superpower she never knew she had. Jake, meanwhile, was going through his own confusion. He would think about something, maybe imagine Lisa doing something specific or wearing a particular outfit, and then it would happen. At first, he assumed it was coincidence. People in long marriages often think alike, right? But the incidents were becoming too specific and too frequent to ignore. When he imagined Lisa making his grandmother's apple pie recipe, she made it the next day without him mentioning it. When he thought about how nice it would be if she wore her hair down instead of in her usual ponytail, she started wearing it loose more often. The most surprising moment came when Jake had been thinking about how he missed the way they used to dance together in their early dating days. He hadn't mentioned this to anyone, hadn't even written it in his notebook. It was just a passing thought while he was washing dishes. That evening, Lisa put on some old music and asked him to dance in their living room. There was no special occasion, No reason for it except that she said she felt like dancing. They swayed together to songs they hadn't heard in years, and Jake felt like his wife had somehow reached into his mind and pulled out his exact desire. Lisa was experiencing her own revelations. She realized that she had always been good at reading people, especially Jake, but this was different. It was like she could sense his thoughts before he fully formed them himself. She could feel when A was happy, sad, or wanting something, even when he tried to hide it. The strangest part was how natural it felt. Lisa wasn't trying to be psychic or mystical about it. She was just paying attention in a way she never had before. And somehow that attention was opening up a channel of communication between them that went beyond normal conversation. Jake began to notice that Lisa seemed happier too. She would smile at him for no apparent reason, or bring him small surprises that perfectly matched his mood. It was like they were becoming more connected as people, even though neither of them fully understood what was happening. One night, as they were getting ready for bed, Jake found himself staring at Lisa while she brushed her teeth. He was thinking about how grateful he was to have married someone who understood him so completely, even the parts of himself he didn't share out loud. Lisa caught his reflection in the bathroom mirror and turned around. Without saying anything, she walked over and kissed him gently. It was exactly what he had been hoping for, delivered at exactly the right moment. "How do you always know?" Jake asked, his voice full of wonder. Lisa considered the question seriously. "I don't know," she admitted. "I just pay attention to you. Really, really close attention. And sometimes I get feelings about what you might want or need." Jake pulled her closer. "It's like you can read my mind." "Maybe," Lisa said. "Or maybe you're just really good at showing me what you're thinking without realizing it." They stood there in their bathroom, holding each other and marveling at the strange new dimension of their relationship. Neither of them knew where it would lead, but they both knew that something important was happening between them. As they fell asleep that night, Jake made a mental note to start paying closer attention to his own thoughts and feelings. If Lisa could somehow sense what he was thinking, maybe he should become more aware of what exactly he was broadcasting. Little did they know, this was just the beginning of a journey that would transform their marriage in ways they could never have imagined. Lisa couldn't stop thinking about what was happening between her and Jake. For the past month, she had been responding to his unspoken thoughts with shocking accuracy, and it was both thrilling and terrifying. She decided she needed to know if this was real or just her imagination playing tricks on her. The next morning, while Jake was getting ready for work, Lisa watched him carefully. She noticed how he glanced at his closet, then at her, then back at his shirts. There was something in his expression, a kind of hopeful uncertainty. Lisa got the strangest feeling that he wanted her to pick out his tie for him. "Let me choose your tie today," she said casually, walking over to his closet. Jake's face broke into a surprised smile. "How did you know I was thinking about that?" Lisa's heart skipped a beat. He had been thinking about it. This wasn't her imagination after all. She selected a blue tie that somehow felt right, and when Jake put it on, he looked at himself in the mirror with genuine pleasure. "This is exactly what I wanted to wear," he said, shaking his head in amazement. From that moment, Lisa decided to conduct what she privately called her experiment. She would pay even closer attention to Jake's subtle signals and see how far this connection really went. At breakfast, she watched Jake stirring his coffee. He did it slowly, thoughtfully, and she sensed he was thinking about something beyond just his morning routine. Lisa got a sudden image in her mind of Jake wanting pancakes instead of his usual toast. It seemed random, but she decided to trust her instinct. "Want me to make pancakes?" she asked. Jake's spoon stopped mid-stir. He stared at her with wide eyes. "I was literally just thinking about how good pancakes would taste right now." "But you already started making toast." Lisa smiled mysteriously and put the bread away. "Changed my mind." As she mixed the pancake batter, she could feel Jake watching her with a mixture of confusion and fascination. She was starting to enjoy the strange power, even though she didn't understand it. The real test came that evening. Jake was sitting in his favorite chair, reading a book. But Lisa could tell he wasn't really concentrating on the pages. His posture suggested he wanted something, but she couldn't figure out what. She sat quietly and observed him, trying to pick up on whatever signal he might be sending. After a few minutes, she got the oddest sensation that Jake wanted her to sit on the floor, next to his chair, not on the couch or in another chair, but specifically on the floor with her head resting against his leg. It seemed like such a specific and unusual desire that Lisa almost dismissed it. But then she remembered the pancakes, the tie, and all the other times her instincts had been right. Without saying anything, she got up from the couch and settled on the carpet next to Jake's chair, leaning her head against his knee. Jake's hand immediately came down to stroke her hair, and she could feel the tension leave his body completely. "This is impossible," he whispered. "I was just thinking about how nice it would be if you did exactly this." Lisa looked up at him. "What's happening to us, Jake?" "I don't know," he admitted, "but I don't want it to stop." Over the next 2 weeks, Lisa pushed her experiment further. She started responding to thoughts Jake hadn't even fully formed yet. When he was thinking about calling his mother, but hadn't decided whether to do it, Lisa would suggest he phone his family. When he was considering whether to order Chinese food for dinner, she would already be looking up the menu online. The most remarkable incident happened on a Wednesday evening. Jake had been having a tough day at work, dealing with a difficult client who kept changing the building design. He came home feeling frustrated and defeated. Though he tried to hide it from Lisa, she could sense his mood the moment he walked through the door. More than that, she could almost feel what he needed to recover from his bad day. Lisa got the impression that Jake wanted to take a hot shower, then sit outside on their small balcony with a cold drink, just watching the sunset in silence. Without asking any questions about his day, Lisa simply said, "Why don't you take a long shower? I'll make some iced tea and we can sit outside afterward." Jake stopped in his tracks. "How did you know that's exactly what I needed?" "Lucky guess," Lisa offered. But they both knew it was much more than luck. Jake began to realize that Lisa wasn't just good at reading his mood anymore. She was somehow accessing his thoughts, his desires, even his needs before he fully understood them himself. It should have felt invasive, but instead, it felt like the most natural thing in the world. He started paying more attention to his own thought patterns, trying to understand what Lisa might be picking up on. Jake noticed that when he thought about something he wanted, his body language changed in subtle ways. Maybe his breathing shifted, or his eyes focused differently, or he unconsciously moved in a certain direction. But even accounting for body language, Lisa's accuracy was uncanny. She would suggest movies he had been thinking about watching, bring him snacks he had been craving, or even change the music to match his exact mood. One Saturday, Jake decided to test Lisa without her knowing. He spent the morning deliberately thinking about wanting to go for a drive to the lake outside of town. He didn't mention it, didn't hint at it, just held the thought in his mind while they did their usual weekend activities. Around noon, Lisa suddenly looked up from her book and said, "It's such a beautiful day. Want to drive out to the lake?" Jake felt a chill run down his spine. "Did I say something about the lake?" "No," Lisa said, looking puzzled herself. "I just had this sudden urge to go there." "Why?" Jake told her about his test, and they sat in stunned silence for several minutes. "This is getting really intense," Lisa said finally. "Are you okay with it?" Jake asked. "I mean, if you could really read my thoughts, that must be overwhelming sometimes." Lisa considered this carefully. "It's not like hearing your thoughts as words," she explained. "It's more like feeling your emotions and desires, and honestly, it makes me feel closer to you than I've ever felt to anyone." Jake reached for her hand. "I feel the same way. It's like you understand me better than I understand myself sometimes." They decided to embrace whatever was happening between them, but they also agreed they needed to be careful. This kind of connection was powerful, and they didn't want to become dependent on it or let it replace normal communication. That night, as they lay in bed, Jake found himself thinking about how grateful he was for Lisa's gift, whatever it was. He didn't say anything out loud, just held the thought with genuine appreciation. Lisa turned over and kissed his forehead softly. "You're welcome," she whispered. Jake's eyes flew open. She had responded to his unspoken gratitude as clearly as if he had thanked her aloud. They were entering uncharted territory in their marriage, and both of them knew that everything was about to change. Jake couldn't take it anymore. For 3 months now, Lisa had been responding to his thoughts with impossible accuracy, and the coincidences were driving him crazy. He needed answers. Even if those answers scared him, the breaking point came on. A Tuesday evening in October, Jake had spent his lunch break writing in his notebook about a memory from their honeymoon. He remembered how they had danced on the beach in Mexico, with Lisa wearing a white sundress and flowers in her hair. He wrote about wishing they could recreate that moment somehow, but he knew it was just a daydream. That evening, Jake came home to find soft music playing and candles lit throughout their living room. Lisa was wearing a white dress he had never seen before, and she had tucked small white flowers behind her ear. She held out her hand to him with a shy smile. "Want to dance?" she asked. Jake's notebook was still in his work bag. There was no way Lisa could have read what he had written. His hand started shaking as he took her hand. "Lisa," he said, his voice barely a whisper, "we need to talk." They danced for a few minutes in silence, but Jake's mind was racing. When the song ended, he led Lisa to the couch and sat down heavily. "How did you know?" he asked, staring at his hands. "How did you know about the dancing, about the flowers, about any of it?" Lisa's confident expression faltered. She had been so focused on making Jake happy that she hadn't really thought about how impossible her knowledge must seem to him. "I don't know," she said honestly. "I just get these feelings about what you want or need. But the dress, Lisa, you bought a new dress that matches exactly what I was thinking about today. You put flowers in your hair just like in my memory. That's not a feeling. That's reading my mind." Jake stood up and started pacing. "For months now, you've been doing things, saying things, acting in ways that match my thoughts perfectly. And I mean perfectly, Lisa. Things I've never told you, things I've only written in my notebook, things I've barely admitted to myself." Lisa watched him pace, feeling a mixture of guilt and fear. She had known this conversation was coming, but she had hoped to avoid it a little longer. "Are you reading my notebook?" Jake asked suddenly. "Is that how you know?" "No," Lisa said quickly. "I would never do that. I respect your privacy." "Then how?" Jake's voice was getting louder, not with anger, but with desperation. "How do you know that I wanted Chinese food last Thursday before I even knew I wanted it? How did you know I was thinking about calling my brother when I hadn't talked to him in months? How did you know I wanted to watch that old movie we saw on our third date?" Lisa stood up and reached for him, but Jake stepped back. "Please don't think I'm trying to manipulate you," she said, tears starting to form in her eyes. "I love you, Jake. Everything I do comes from love. I know that," Jake said, his voice softening. "That's not what scares me. What scares me is that I feel like I have no privacy left. Like you can see inside my head whenever you want to." They stood in their living room, surrounded by the romantic scene Lisa had created, feeling further apart than they had in years. "Sit down," Lisa said gently. "Let me try to explain." Jake sat reluctantly, his body tense with confusion and worry. "It started small," Lisa began. "I noticed you looking at things differently, moving your body in certain ways when you were thinking. At first, I thought I was just getting better at reading your moods." She tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, the flower falling to the floor. "But then I realized it was more than that. When you want something, or when you're thinking about something specific, you give off this energy. I can feel it, Jake. Not your actual thoughts, but the emotions behind them. That's impossible," Jake said, but his voice lacked conviction. "Is it?" Lisa asked. "Think about it. Haven't there been times when you knew I was upset before I said anything? When you could sense that I needed comfort even when I was trying to act strong?" Jake considered this. There had been moments like that, times when he seemed to know exactly what Lisa needed without her telling him. "That's different," he said finally. "That's just knowing someone really well. Maybe what I'm doing is just knowing you really, really well," Lisa suggested. Maybe I've learned to pick up on signals you don't even realize you're sending. Jake shook his head. The dancing tonight, Lisa. I wrote about that specific memory in my notebook during lunch. There's no way you could have picked up on that from signals. Lisa was quiet for a long moment. What did you write exactly? Jake went to his bag and pulled out his notebook. He flipped to that day's entry and read aloud. I keep thinking about our honeymoon. How we danced on the beach. Lisa looked so beautiful. In that white dress with flowers in her hair. I wish we could have that moment again. Lisa's eyes widened. Jake, this morning when I was getting dressed, I had the strongest urge to wear something white. And when I was walking past the flower shop on my way home, I felt like I had to buy those flowers. I didn't know why. They stared at each other in amazement and confusion. So you're saying you didn't consciously know what I had written, but somehow you felt it anyway? Jake asked. I think so, Lisa said slowly. It's like there's this connection between us that I don't understand. When you have strong feelings or desires, especially about us, about our relationship, I pick up on them somehow. Jake sat back down beside her. This is either the most romantic thing that's ever happened to anyone, or the most terrifying, maybe. It's both, Lisa said with a small smile. They sat in silence for several minutes, processing what this meant for their relationship. Are you afraid of me now? Lisa asked quietly. Jake looked at her, really looked at her. This was still his wife, the woman he had fallen in love with 7 years ago. She wasn't trying to control him or invade his privacy. She was just responding to a connection between them that neither of them fully understood. No, he said finally, I'm not afraid of you, but I'm afraid of this thing that's happening between us. What if it gets stronger? What if it changes who we are? What if it makes us closer? Lisa countered. What if it's a gift? Jake reached for her hand. Can you turn it off? Can you choose not to read me? Lisa thought about this carefully. I don't think so. It's not like I'm trying to do it. It just happens. But Jake, I promise you this. I will never use this connection to hurt you or manipulate you. And if you ever need space from me, just tell me. Jake squeezed her hand. I don't want space from you. I just need to understand what's happening. To us, we'll figure it out together, Lisa said. But Jake, can I ask you something? Of course. How does it feel when I respond to your thoughts? When I do something you were hoping for but didn't ask for? Jake considered the question honestly. It feels amazing, he admitted. It feels like being completely understood and accepted. Like you see all of me, even the parts I'm not sure about. Myself, Lisa smiled. That's exactly how I want you to feel. That's why I do it. Jake pulled her closer. Okay, he said. I don't understand this, and it scares me a little. But I trust you. I trust us. So we're going to be okay? Lisa asked. Jake looked around at the candles, the music still playing softly. The white flowers scattered on the floor. Yeah, he said, finally smiling. We're going to be okay. But Lisa, yes, next time I'm thinking about dancing, maybe give me a little warning before you transform our living room into a ballroom. Lisa laughed, and the tension between them finally broke. They had crossed a bridge in their relationship, and there was no going back. But for the first time since this all started, they were crossing it together. After their big conversation, everything changed between Jake and Lisa. Now that they both understood what was happening, they decided to explore the strange connection more openly. It was like they had been given a secret language that only they could speak. The first few weeks were awkward. Jake found himself second-guessing his own thoughts, wondering if Lisa would pick up on them. He would think about wanting coffee, then feel embarrassed when Lisa offered to make some. But gradually, he started to relax and accept that this was just part of their relationship now. Lisa, on the other hand, became more confident in her ability. She stopped questioning her instincts and learned to trust the feelings she got about Jake's needs and desires. She also discovered that her connection to him was getting stronger and more detailed. One morning, Jake was getting ready for an important presentation at work. He was nervous about it, though he tried to hide his anxiety from Lisa. As he was adjusting his tie in the mirror, Lisa came up behind him. "You're going to do great today," she said, placing her hands on his shoulders. "Mr. Peterson is going to love your design for the community center." Jake froze. He hadn't told Lisa that Mr. Peterson would be at the presentation, or that it was about the community center project. These were details he had learned only yesterday. "How did you know about Peterson?" he asked. Turning to face her, Lisa looked surprised. I don't know. When I looked at you just now, I got this image of you presenting to an older man with gray hair and a blue suit. The name Peterson just popped into my head." Jake sat down on their bed, amazed. That's exactly what he looks like, and he always wears blue suits. This was new. Lisa wasn't just picking up on Jake's emotions anymore. She was somehow accessing specific information from his mind, details he wasn't even actively thinking about. Over the next month, Lisa's ability continued to evolve. She started knowing things about Jake's work projects, his conversations with friends, even his childhood memories that he hadn't shared with her. But instead of feeling invaded, Jake found it comforting. It was like having someone who truly understood every part of him. The most remarkable change came in their daily routine. Lisa began anticipating Jake's needs before he even realized he had them. She would have his favorite snack ready when he came home from stressful days. She would suggest activities that perfectly matched his mood. She would even wake up in the middle of the night to get him water when he was thirsty. Before he had fully woken up himself, Jake, inspired by Lisa's gift, started paying closer attention to her as well. He found that when he really focused on Lisa, he could sometimes sense what she was feeling too. It wasn't as strong as her ability, but it was definitely there. One evening, Lisa was grading papers at the kitchen table. She seemed fine on the surface, but Jake got a feeling that she was frustrated about something. He walked over and started massaging her shoulders. "Rough day with the students?" he asked. Lisa looked up in surprise. "How did you know?" "I thought I was hiding it pretty well." "I'm learning from the best," Jake said with a smile. As winter turned to spring, their connection deepened in ways they hadn't expected. Lisa discovered that she could sense not just what Jake wanted in the moment, but what he needed for his long-term happiness and growth. When Jake was considering applying for a promotion at work, but was too scared to try, Lisa encouraged him without knowing about the opportunity. When he was thinking about reconnecting with his estranged father, Lisa suggested they visit his parents, not knowing about the family tension. "It's like you can see the path I should take before I can see it myself," Jake told her one night. "Maybe that's what love is," Lisa replied. "Seeing the best possible version of someone and helping them get there." Their friends started noticing the change in their relationship. At dinner parties, Jake and Lisa would communicate with just glances and small gestures. They seemed to know what the other was thinking without speaking. It's like they're reading each other's minds. Their friend Tony said to his wife after spending an evening with them. They finished each other's sentences. His wife replied, "I've never seen a couple so in sync." But Jake and Lisa knew it was more than just being in sync. They were experiencing something that went beyond normal communication. The most beautiful moment came during a summer evening when they were sitting on their back porch. Jake was thinking about how grateful he was for their marriage, how Lisa had made him a better person, how lucky he felt to have found someone who understood him so completely. He wasn't planning to say any of this out loud. He was just sitting there, feeling overwhelmed with love and gratitude. Lisa turned to him with tears in her eyes. "I love you too," she said softly. "And you've made me a better person as well." Jake realized that she had felt every emotion he was experiencing, had understood his gratitude as clearly as if he had spoken it. "This is incredible," he whispered, taking her hand. "I know," she replied. "Sometimes I can't believe this is real." They had learned that their connection wasn't just about Lisa reading Jake's thoughts. It was about two people becoming so close, so attuned to each other, that the boundaries between them started to blur in the most beautiful way. Jake started writing less in his notebook, not because he was worried about privacy, but because he didn't need to. Lisa had become a living expression of his thoughts and dreams. She was helping him become the person he had always wanted to be. Lisa found that her gift was changing her too. By paying such close attention to Jake's inner world, she had become more aware of her own thoughts and feelings. She was more confident, more intuitive, more connected to her own desires. Their love had become something neither of them had thought possible. They were two separate people who somehow shared one heart, one mind, one soul. They had found a way to be completely themselves while also being completely united. As they sat on their porch that evening, watching the sunset and feeling each other's contentment, they knew they had discovered something rare and precious. They had found a love that transcended ordinary communication, ordinary connection, ordinary understanding. And they knew that this was just the beginning. Their bond was still growing, still deepening, still teaching them new things about what it meant to truly know another person. They were no longer just husband and wife. They had become something new together, something beautiful and mysterious that even they didn't fully understand. But they didn't need to understand it, they just needed to treasure it and let it continue to grow. 2 years had passed since Jake and Lisa first discovered their incredible connection. What once seemed impossible had become as natural as breathing. They had learned to live with a love that went beyond what most people could imagine. Their relationship had transformed into something beautiful and balanced. Lisa's gift had evolved from simply reading Jake's immediate thoughts to understanding his deeper needs, his dreams for the future, and even his fears that he couldn't put into words. But more importantly, she had learned when to act on these insights and when to step back and let Jake figure things out on his own. Jake, meanwhile, had developed his own intuitive abilities. While he couldn't read Lisa's mind the way she could read his, he had become incredibly sensitive to her emotions and needs. Their connection had become a two-way street, with both of them contributing to their extraordinary bond. One morning in late autumn, Jake woke up with a strange feeling. He looked at Lisa sleeping beside him and suddenly knew, without any doubt, that she was thinking about having children. Not just considering it, but actually ready to start their family. The knowledge came to him as clearly as if she had spoken. The words aloud. This was new for Jake. Usually, Lisa was the one who picked up on his thoughts. But as he lay there watching her sleep, he could sense her dreams, her hopes, her quiet excitement about the possibility of becoming a mother. When Lisa woke up, she found Jake watching her with a knowing smile. "Good morning," she said, stretching. "You look like you have something on your mind." "Actually," Jake said carefully, "I think you're the one with something on your mind." Lisa sat up, curious. "What do you mean?" "You're ready," Jake said simply, "for kids. For starting our family." Lisa's eyes widened. It was true. For weeks, she had been thinking about babies, imagining what their children might look like, dreaming about turning their spare room into a nursery. But she hadn't said anything to Jake because she wasn't sure if he was ready. "How did you know?" she asked, amazed. Jake shrugged. "I guess I'm finally learning your language too." They spent that morning talking about their future, making plans they had both been thinking about but neither had voiced. It was the first time Jake had clearly read Lisa's thoughts, and it felt like their connection had reached a new level of completeness. Over the following months, Jake's ability to understand Lisa continued to grow. He would come home with flowers on days when she needed cheering up, before she even realized she was sad. He would suggest they call her sister when Lisa was missing family, or propose weekend trips to places Lisa had been secretly wanting to visit. Their friends and family had gotten used to their unusual closeness, though most people still didn't understand the full extent of their connection. Jake's brother once joked that they were like two people sharing one brain, which was closer to the truth than he realized. But Jake and Lisa had learned to be careful about how much they revealed to others. Early on, they had tried to explain their gift to close friends, but the reactions ranged from disbelief to concern to envy. They discovered that their connection was something precious that needed to be protected from too much outside scrutiny. The real test of their evolved relationship came when Jake faced the biggest challenge of his career. His architecture firm was competing for a major contract to design a new hospital, and Jake was chosen to lead the project. The pressure was enormous, and for the first time in years, Jake felt truly overwhelmed. Lisa could sense his stress from the moment he got the news, but instead of immediately jumping in to fix everything like she might have done in the past, she waited and watched, letting Jake work through his initial panic on his own. When Jake came home that evening, exhausted and worried, Lisa was ready, with exactly what he needed. She had prepared his favorite comfort food, had soft music playing, and had cleared her schedule for the evening so they could talk through his concerns together. "How do you always know exactly what I need?" Jake asked as they sat on the couch, his head in her lap while she ran her fingers through his hair. "Because I love you," Lisa said simply, "and because you've taught me that sometimes the best way to help someone is to let them find their own strength first." Jake realized that their connection had matured. Lisa wasn't just responding to his thoughts anymore. She was helping him become the best version of himself. She could sense when he needed support and when he needed space to grow. The hospital project became a turning point for Jake professionally. With Lisa's intuitive support, he created the most innovative design of his career. But more importantly, he learned to trust his own instincts in a way he never had before. On the night Jake's design was accepted, they celebrated quietly at home. As they sat together, Jake realized that their gift had given them something most couples never find: complete understanding and acceptance. "Do you ever miss the way things were before?" Jake asked. "When we were just a normal couple?" Lisa considered the question seriously. "No," she said finally. "I can't imagine going back to guessing what you're thinking, or wondering if you really understand me. This connection we have, it's made everything in my life more meaningful." Jake nodded. "I feel the same way. But Lisa, what if other people think we're weird? What if they don't understand? Then that's their loss," Lisa replied. "We know what we have is real and beautiful. That's all that matters." As the seasons changed and their third year together with this gift began, Jake noticed something wonderful happening. He was becoming more aware of his own thoughts and feelings, more intentional about the energy he put out into the world. Knowing that Lisa could sense his inner state had made him more mindful of his emotional health. Lisa, too, had grown. Her ability to read Jake had made her more empathetic and intuitive in all her relationships. Her students loved her classes because she seemed to understand exactly what they needed to learn. Her friends sought her advice because she had an uncanny ability to see situations clearly. Their love story had become something unique and extraordinary, but it had also made them better people individually. They had learned that true intimacy wasn't about losing yourself in another person, but about becoming more yourself through connection with someone who truly sees and accepts you. On a quiet Sunday morning, as they sat reading together in comfortable silence, Jake looked up at Lisa and thought about how grateful he was for their journey. He didn't say anything, just held the feeling of gratitude and love in his heart. Lisa looked up from her book and smiled at him, her eyes shining with the same gratitude and love he was feeling. They had found something that transcended ordinary marriage, ordinary love, ordinary connection. They had discovered that when two people truly open their hearts to each other, when they pay attention with complete love and acceptance, miracles can happen. Their story wasn't ending, it was just beginning. They knew their connection would continue to evolve, continue to surprise them, continue to teach them new things about love and human possibility. And they were ready for whatever came next, knowing they would face it together. Heart to heart, mind to mind, soul to soul.